So we will also have time for questions at the end. Do put your questions in the chat. And this isn't a webinar format of Zoom, so keep an eye on your mute, ensure that it is on. And yes, so before we get into the full webinar, a little bit about us, LSEP. Some of you are more familiar with us, and for those who aren't, this will be a very quick recap of what we are here to do in the resilience sector over the last 3 years, and why we're here. So we build connections primarily and share knowledge and insight among all of you in the volunteering community and the faith sector in order to strengthen preparedness overall. But what are we as a partnership? We're really a network of networks. We were created between two organizations, the London experts, London Plus, and drawing in also the expertise of the resilience and emergencies sector across the country through VCS Emergencies Partnership. And now we have over 200 organizations. So I'll share a joining link in the chat if this is relevant for you. But what is it to be a partner? It is being connected to meetings and resources, training as part of building resilience. And that is before an emergency happens. So we focus primarily on preparing for emergencies, but also responding and learning from emergencies. We are not emergency responders, but we do connect partners in the event of an emergency. And after an emergency, we learn from them and advocate where we can in order to help change how volunteering community and faith sector are involved in the process. And we work with many networks, as I said before, and for this webinar series, we're working with Communities Prepared. We all complement one another with various expertise. And with that, I'll hand it over to Violaine, who is going to explain more about this London Resilient Communities program. Over to you, Violaine.
Thank you very much, Eli. So yeah, I'm going to talk a bit about the London Resilience Communities program. It's funded by the London Resilience Unit of the Greater London Authority, and it is designed to support the London's voluntary community and faith sectors. And it helps, hopefully, these people to be more resilient in the face of emergencies. So please, if you haven't done so yet, go and visit the program's page. I will actually post it in the chat in a minute when I finish to speak. So this program, it comes with its own built-in grant programs that facilitate the development of resilient hubs and community emergency plans across London communities. And I know that hopefully today there will be some of our grantees that are joining the call. So that's really great. Nice to see some of you today as well here. But there is actually a lot more to the program, including this webinar series that you're attending today. So I know that the grant application window is now closed, but there is a lot more that you can find on the webpage, including the webinar series that I said already. But we've got this program is delivered in collaboration, as we mentioned already, Groundwork London, Communities Prepared, which is the program of Groundwork South, the British Red Cross, Communities Prepared, which is the program that I'm part of as well. And in the coming months, we'll be uploading loads of free resources on the webpage. So please stay in touch by going on the website and find these free resources that are designed to help you build better resilient communities across London. So yeah, you can sign up for the program itself if you want to get updates as well. So please, I encourage you to do that. So in terms of the webinars, so thank you very much for joining today. We're really excited to get our first webinar session on today. And what that webinar series is, it is actually built around the London Community Resilience Toolkit that I'm going to introduce in a minute, if you're not familiar with it. And it is, again, designed really to help communities make the most of their involvement in building a resilient community. So please do sign up for the sessions that are interesting to you. All of them, if you want, they are all free and they're going to be monthly in the next 8 months. And you can see the schedule here in more details on the screen with the dates as well. So definitely worth having a look at if you're free on those days and if you can join in. It also will feature loads of guest speakers, including some international people that are going to be coming to give us some very useful insight on what is done abroad in terms of the context of resilience. So I really encourage you. So if we can have the next slide, please. Bessie, thank you. So this is just to talk about the London Community Resilience Toolkit that is already available and free online. So definitely, if you haven't looked at it, please go on the website. I will be uploading that on the chat as well for you to access it later. So what is it? So the London Community Resilience Toolkit was designed about a year ago, and it was designed by Groundwork London and Communities Prepared and funded by the Resilience Unit of the Greater London Authority. And it is really a great resource to have in hand that can help communities build a resilient community. So what it is so it's a resource that is made in several parts. It can give you informations on risks for communities. You can find checklists are quite useful for you to look at and populate in your own time with your community. It has step-by-step guides. You can download it as well at different formats. You can download it to have it as a useful online resource, but you can print it if you'd like. We also have some printed copies that are available to some of our grantees, and also you can use it as a Word document if you would like to input in the document, because they are built to be templates as well if you'd like. We encourage you to collaborate, with a lot of people in your community and work through the toolkit. If you can do it in the order that the toolkit is designed, that seems to us to be the most logical, but obviously you can just focus on the key areas that are more important to you and your community. So it is really sort of built to be used in the most useful way for yourself. So please have a look at that on our webpage. I will just post in the chat in a minute. So I'm now going to hand over to Jessie from Communities Prepared, and they're going to be speaking to the content of our first webinar today. So thank you, and over to you, Jessie.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us for this afternoon session. Today's session is all about understanding the London's resilience context. So we've got some exciting speakers later, but up until then, you are stuck with the less exciting me. So I'm Jessie, and I work for Communities Prepared, like VLN. In this session, we're going to be looking at defining what community resilience is, identifying some of the main risks for London specifically, and UK as a whole, describing the landscape of who's working in this space, who are the key players in resilience and emergency response, and how actually we need to be moving towards a whole of society approach, and a little bit about what that might look like in practice. So for a lot of this, you have me, but we're also going to be sending you over to Mark Rogers from the Met Office, and Millie Williamson from London Resilience, which is a really important partner to know about in this space. So first of all, we're going to open with a question, and I believe we're going to have a poll popping up for you now. So there's 2 questions in the poll, so feel free to answer both questions, because you'll get the second question a little bit later. But really, we're asking the question, what does resilience mean to you? And for me, resilience is the kind of ability to persist, adapt, transform, change, move through some level of disruption. And one of the key metaphors in this space is looking at nature. So we'll come back to this metaphor a little bit, but you can see in the slide there's a palm tree that has been buffeted by the wind, and instead of snapping, it bends, and therefore shows resilience through flexibility. We'll also show some other nature metaphors for resilience on later slides. But you get the sense here that resilience is about kind of changing practice in order to cope with disruption. So this is our definition of resilience from Communities Prepared. So obviously other definitions exist, but for us, resilience and community resilience is a way for communities to use their resources, assets. So that might be physical things such as venues, spaces, equipment, but also intangible things like skills and volunteers, individuals, organizations, and networks to work collectively to reduce risks and minimize damage when an incident happens, and rebuild differently from adverse situations and emergencies. So this idea from what we talked a lot about during the COVID pandemic of building back better, that is very much something that we think a lot about in the resilience space. So do we have some results from the first poll? So we've got 47% of people thinking that resilience is being able to cope with disruption, 13% being prepared for emergencies, 37% having strong community that supports each other, and 3% building back better after something bad happens. Obviously, actually, probably all of them are true. So there's no wrong answer there. But it is interesting that obviously a lot of community organizations really show having the strong community that supports each other as being really important. And if you think back to that tree metaphor of the tree bending in the wind, that's only possible because its roots are strong in the ground. And that's why having a strong community that supports each other is really important for being able to cope with disruption. So this is something that we call the emergencies cycle, which is preparing for emergencies, responding to emergencies, and recovering from emergencies. So preparing might look like things like upskilling, making plans, recruiting people to help, whether that's volunteers or staff, and increasing the community power and knowledge within your community around emergencies and what to do. Responding might look like helping people when an incident happens. So that could be incident specific. Obviously, all resilience issues come with their own specificities, as do the kind of receiving environment in which those floods or fires happen to. So responses always have to be specific. But that could be something like warning and informing people if they need to evacuate or stay inside the house, helping people with those evacuations or kind of communications support around evacuations, or just letting people know, what to do in order to keep safe. And recovering from emergencies that's any activity that helps people get back to a relative normal or better than normal post an emergency. So an example from my work up here in Salford is we had some big floods, and one of the things that we did to help people was recover was to store a bunch of donated fridges for them, because everyone's white goods were destroyed, and they had to wait for a long time for their kitchens to dry out before they can plug anything back in. So that there was a need for that service. So it could be anything really, but just responding to what people need. And it's worth noting here that mitigation methods, i.e., stuff that reduces the likelihood of an incident taking place. So climate change.
Yeah, Jesse, I think we can't hear you anymore, or I can't hear you.
But we've not forgotten about it. So, what do we need to be resilient to? So this is another part of the poll. I minimize my poll, so maybe somebody else could come in and let me know what people have said.
Yes, so on the London's biggest resilience issues, we're seeing the highest response to cost of living and economy at 47%, and heat waves, 43%. Then down to flooding at 23% and power outages at 20. Just behind that, the other two are hate crimes, riots, and decreased social cohesion, as well as cyber attacks.
Great. Yeah, there's lots of potential things to be concerned about, and this is some of the things that I thought of that might also come up. So we've got those climate change and weather related impacts. We've got solar weather, which has the potential to disrupt electronic equipment. War and humanitarian crisis. We've got the cost of living thing that obviously came through quite heavily. Civil unrest, inequality, pandemics as well. It's worth noting, and I think it's really important why cost of living often comes in quite strongly, even though it's not an acute resilience issue. It's not necessarily an incident that you would respond to. It is something that makes more people vulnerable to issues when they do happen. And we know that each community will have different experiences and different access to resources, and that will change how they're able to respond, making some people more vulnerable than others. So that there's not a one size fits all response nature. And we know that for a lot of these challenges, they're often very interconnected anyway. So building resilience to any of these risks or challenges ultimately builds your resilience to wider things. So this is the kind of national picture. So this is something from the National Risk Register. So you can see there's all sorts of different impacts that you can see from across the UK. If we zoom into the south, we are especially looking at things like healthcare, transport, drought, water availability. Those kind of things are coming through. And in London specifically, there's something called a London Risk Register, which is something that is maybe somebody could link to in the chat as we're talking, but the slides will have this as a link for you at the end as well. So when you receive the slides, you'll be able to see this as a resource. So London's Risk Register has London's main risks, who is responsible for them. So you can see here that the Met Office is responsible for looking at for space weather and what controls are in place to manage that risk. So this is something that's really useful to have eyes on, especially if you're making any form of community emergency plans. There's some stuff that, you know, might be out of your hands, but there are other things that communities can definitely get involved in responding. So it's really a useful resource to kind of look at what the government thinks the main risks are. And obviously, as a community, you might have different priorities. It might be that you want to respond to the cost of living crisis higher, or incorporate that into your work wider. But it's worth kind of looking at what this is, just in terms of not repeating work. So I'm gonna hand you over to the capable hands of Mark Rogers. So Mark has been working for the Met Office for over 37 years, which is exactly the amount of times that I've been alive. And his current role is as the Civil Contingencies Advisor. So he works closely with emergency responders and provides information and forecasts for any weather-related incidents. So over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Jesse. Thanks for making me feel so old.
No problem.
Next slide, please. Keep going. It seems to have split. So there we go. So climate change. So as you're probably aware, our climate is changing. We're already seeing how things have changed over the last 30 years and how things are likely to change over the next few years as well. And we'll look at that in a bit more detail in a moment. But the global average temperature has changed. So if you take the line across the bottom as the baseline, back to those pre-industrial levels, 1850 to 1900, and you can see how over the last 50, 100 years, temperature has risen, and probably increasingly rising faster as well. And that 1.5 on the top right-hand corner, that 1.5 is quite important. That's the global temperature that the COP conferences, the global conferences, said we would try to keep the temperature below globally. So it did break it last year, but the year before, 2024, last year it was just below that 1.5. So we are heading towards that. As you see, temperatures continue to rise. Next slide, please. That's the global picture. How about the UK? So when we talk about climate statistics, we talk about 30-year chunks. So these pictures show you the difference between the 1961 to 1990 chunk, as it were, and the 1991 to 2020. Picture on the left-hand side shows the mean temperature, and you can see that London is in the certainly red, if not the dark red area, and over that 30-year difference, the temperature has risen by over 1 degree, which is quite significant. Across the whole of the country, the temperature is rising and has done over the last 30 years or so. On the right-hand side, you can see lots of blue, and that is where there's an increase in rainfall. So we are becoming warmer, we are becoming wetter on the whole. The warmer the atmosphere, the wetter we are likely to become. So a warmer atmosphere can contain more water vapor, about 7% more. So when we have those rainfall events, as I'm sure you've noticed in the last few weeks, when we have those rainfall events, they are likely to be heavier because there is more water vapor in the atmosphere. Next slide, please. So just showing you again, really, the GIF on the right-hand side just shows you how temperature has risen since that famous year of 1976. And it just continues to rise. So we didn't have any purples or browns before, but now increasingly we're seeing these increasing temperatures. And these slides go up to 2022, or the picture on the left-hand goes up to 2022, and you can see 9 out of the 10 warmest years on record have all been since 1990, and last year beat that as well. So that picture is slightly out of date now. But you can see all of our warmer temperatures are on the right-hand side of that graph, and in recent years. And that 2022, 40.3 degrees. So I joined the Met Office in 1988. If you'd said to me then we'd hit 40 degrees in the UK, I would have laughed at you. That's not, shouldn't really be possible, but unfortunately it is. Next slide, please. So how's that going to change us? These are the figures for Barking and Dagenham, but it could be anywhere within London. Our winter rainfall has already increased by about 4% since those 1981 to 2020 long-term averages. And we could potentially see up to 27% more rainfall in winters in the years to come. Depending on, so you've got three, and the next few slides will show this. On the left-hand side, if the global temperature is at 1.5 degrees, in the middle if it increases by 2 degrees, and on the right-hand side if it increases by 4. So if we do get that 4-degree global warming, we could see 27% more rainfall across London in the years to come. Next slide, please. On the other hand, in summer rainfall, back one, summer rainfall. Can you go back one, Jesse?
Oh, sorry.
That's right. Summer rainfall. We haven't actually seen a change in 1981 to 2000 long-term average, but we could potentially see 43% less rainfall. What we're seeing so far in this country, what is happening is we are seeing definitely wetter winters. Our summers, from a total rainfall point of view, aren't changing that much. But what we are seeing is that we're seeing our rainfall arriving in very short, very heavy bursts. So those big torrential thunderstorms. So the actual total rainfall isn't changing much. What we are seeing a lot, the biggest difference we are seeing is in those spring figures where they are much warmer and they are much drier. So wetter, warmer winters, warmer summers or hotter summers, and then those warmer, drier springs. But yes, we could see a big reduction in rainfall, leading to impacts about water supply and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Summer temperatures. We've already seen a 1.2 degree increase in our summer average temperature, and that could potentially be up to 5.2 in the years to come. So big increase. It's already warm. It could get even warmer. Next slide, please. How about the winter temperatures? Depending whether you like snow or not, that might make a difference. We've seen an increase in 0.7 degrees. That could be up to 3.5. So the number of occasions where we're going to see ice, snow, and so on will decrease, as it has already. But it doesn't rule out those really cold periods that we often see. We saw a bit a few weeks ago, and things like Beast from the East. So we're going to see less of that, but it doesn't mean we will never get them again. Next slide, please. And the wildfire risk. If you think back to 2022, we saw significant wildfires across London as those temperatures approached 40 degrees. And the conditions required for wildfire, so hot, dry conditions in the summer or late spring into the summer, are going to increase in the years ahead. So the wildfire risk is going to increase. So 2022 is a bit of a sign of things to come in the coming years. Next slide, please. National Severe Weather Warning Service. So hopefully you're aware of this. The Met Office's probably key product is the National Severe Weather Warning Service. It's there to warn people of severe weather and to help people to be proactive. So when they see something coming, when they receive the warning, it's about being proactive of what is coming and being able to put things into place to mitigate against those impacts. So next slide, please. We warn on 8 different weather elements. Thunderstorm and lightning sort of come together a bit. Extreme heat, fog, rain, wind, snow, and ice. So they're all things that could lead to impacts across our area. Next one, please. We are an impact-based warning service. So we don't really mind how much rain or how strong the winds or so on. We are very much looking at what are the impacts of severe weather. So if we see severe weather coming, how bad is it going to be? And what impacts could it lead to? So on the left-hand side, so we use this impact matrix, which is a bit of a risk assessment. So on the left-hand side, we have the likelihood of impacts occurring. So how likely is a location going to see those impacts? So a lot of this is around confidence in forecast, not quite knowing the track of a low pressure system or where it's going to get the thunderstorms or something like that. So the likelihood, particularly a long way in advance of an event happening, can be quite low. but will gradually increase as we get closer to the event and the forecast becomes more stable and certain. So we've got the likelihood on the left-hand side, and we've got the level of impacts upon the bottom. So when it arrives, how bad is it going to be? Very low, low, medium, or high. And it's really important to understand this matrix if you can. So always look for this matrix because you'll get a colour, yellow, amber, or red, but it's really important not to focus on the colour. Try to focus on where the tick is in the box. Next slide will understand hopefully why that means. On the left-hand side, we have a yellow warning. It's a high likelihood, so we're really confident where it's going to get the impacts, but it's a high likelihood of a low impact event. So it's nothing too serious, it's business as usual, be aware of it, but there's probably not a massive amount you need to do, just be aware. High likelihood, low impact event, yellow. On the right-hand side, that's a very low likelihood of a high impact. So this is high impact, danger to life, significant disruption, loss of power, strain on emergency responders. We're not quite sure, not 100% sure yet where it's going to see those impacts, but wherever see those impacts, they're going to be high impact, dangerous to life. So these are both yellows, but they are very different yellows. The one on the left, business as usual. The one on the right, danger to life. So always look to see where that tick in the box is. Next slide, please. So, so the ticks have gone a bit funny, but yellow is low impact, business as usual. Don't worry about it too much. Medium impact could be a yellow, could be an amber. Injuries with danger to life, disruption, short-term strain, and so on. Or the right-hand side, that high impact column could be yellow, could be amber, could be red, and it's danger to life, extensive damage, prolonged disruption, and it's all down to the likelihood. It's still the same impacts, but it's down to the likelihood level. Some of our biggest storms, think Tuesday storm, Storm Eunice, and so on, all started on the bottom right-hand corner yellow, and then gradually moved up that right-hand side. Next slide, please. Yeah. So monitor your warnings. I would highly recommend signing up to receive warnings in some way or another. So you can sign up through GovDelivery, subscribe to it, and it will send you all warnings that are issued. You can check them on the Met Office website, which is there, or you can get the Met Office app, which has just been updated. Some people like it, some people don't. But the Met Office app has just been updated. And you can sign up for notifications. So if a warning has been issued for a location that you're interested in, then it will send you a notification. The warning just means you can look at them, you can proactively react to them, and TV and radio as well. Obviously, you'll get the warnings on there as well. Next slide, please. So just a very quick look at flooding, which is one of the biggest risks across the UK and across London. Next slide, please. Just thought I'd give you a quick look back. So autumn in London was around average rainfall wise, so it was slightly below average. December again was around average for the UK for London, so 94%, 93%. But you'll notice things have certainly changed in January. I sent these slides in to be used for the 21st, when we'd seen 128% of our long-term average. I've checked this morning. And that figure is now up to 161% of our long-term average. So it's been a very, very wet month across the whole of southern England, but including London. And we're already seeing lots of flooding across many parts of southern England due to the very wet conditions that we've been seeing. So flooding is something we really need to take care of. We need to be aware of, and we need to monitor as much as we can. And to do that, next slide and final slide, I think, is the flood forecast for the next 5 days. So again, have a look at this. You can again sign up to receive this. And what the flood forecast for the next 5 days, it does literally give you a forecast that some sort of flooding may or may not occur. Again, using that yellow, amber, red, how bad it's going to be. But you can sign up to receive this and get this. And it could be from coastal or tidal, it could be from rivers, could be from surface water, or could be from groundwater. So all those different sorts. If flooding is forecast, it will appear on here over the next 5 days, and it gives you that 5 days look ahead so that you can be proactive to something's coming. And hopefully you've all signed up for EA's flood alerts and flood warnings if you're in a flood risk area as well. So I think that's all from me. I'm going to hand back to Jesse.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. If you've got questions for Mark, please put them in the chat, and at the end of the session, we will try and get to as many as we can, but we'll be kind of doing questions at the end, if that is okay with everyone. So quickly before we introduce Millie, just some context about where emergencies fall in terms of legalities. The emergencies and emergencies response is governed by something called the Civil Contingencies Act, which was put in place after the UK faced quite severe problems around resilience, such as the flood and mouth and a fire service strike, which kind of was a shock to the system for many. So they put together the Civil Contingencies Act, and that sets out the national responsibilities for emergencies preparedness, response, and recovery. Each region has a local resilience forum, which basically is a partnership between various different people with responsibilities for emergency preparedness and response. So within those partnerships, we've got category 1 responders, which are the local authority for that particular area, the Environment Agency, and your blue light services. Category 2 responders usually are utility and transport companies who have a kind of stake in the game, especially around transport disruption and power outages, that sort of thing. And optionally involved is the voluntary sector, and you might see some key players in the space who are focused on emergency response work, such as the British Red Cross sitting on local resilience forums, but you also have sometimes local infrastructure organisations. And in London, you're very lucky to have a local resilience forum, which is very keen on community involvement. And with that, I will introduce Millie Williamson from your local resilience forum, London Resilience, who will speak for about 5 minutes about what London Resilience do and the importance of community resilience. Over to you, Millie.
Thank you, Jesse, and good afternoon, everybody. As Jesse has said, my name is Millie Williamson. I'm a Senior Resilience Officer at London Resilience. London Resilience is part of the Greater London Authority. We deliver and coordinate resilience services on behalf of the London Resilience Partnership and London local authorities. So when a major event, a major emergency incident is declared, we'll be at the heart of that, coordinating partners, those category 1 responders that Jesse has just talked to you about, making sure that Londoners are looked after during an emergency. It's really wonderful to have you all here today. In our minds, you represent an incredibly powerful group, people united by a shared purpose, helping Londoners' communities become stronger, more resilient, and better prepared for future emergencies. As Jesse has said, we believe that community groups and people must be at the heart of resilience arrangements for London. So, on the legality side of things aside, we know during a major emergency, people are always the first ones on the scene and the last ones to leave. Today marks another important milestone for what we call Project 2026. This year, together with partners, we will be establishing more than 150 community emergency plans across London. And this is a remarkable commitment and achievement that builds on already extraordinary work many of you are already doing every day. And I thought before talking about that and what the London Resilient Communities Project is about, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes reflecting on why this work matters and why it matters now. Now, London has faced many, many emergencies from the Great fire of London of 1666 to more recent tragedies. Many of you will remember the terrible Grenfell Tower fire of 2017. I'm sure many of you on the call lived through, everybody on the call lived through COVID-19 pandemic and what that did to the city, touching every household and every community across London in many different ways. And it feels that we are living in a world that feels increasingly unpredictable from the stats that Mark has just shared with us. It's very unpredictable. It's different. It's not like it was just 30 years ago. And these moments and these changes remind us that London's resilience has always been tested and that this resilience is important and must continue to grow. We've seen recently rising community tensions fueled perhaps by misinformation, polarization, political rhetoric. Many of us were dismayed by the anti-migrant riots over the last 2 summers. We've also seen the growing threat of instability across the globe, talk of conflict in Ukraine, in Venezuela, and in many other places. And as Mark has demonstrated so well, it is undeniable. We are experiencing really escalating impacts of climate change. Storm Chandra just this week adds to a pattern of unprecedented flash flooding, intense heat waves we've seen, destructive storms. Extreme weather is no longer rare. It's our reality. I also want to recognize something that is very important to consider in this space. Londoners do not experience risk equally. Disparities exist. There are disparities in how we experience risk and emergencies. Inequalities shape how people prepare. It shapes how people cope with emergencies and how quickly they recover. We've seen the power of community. If you go back to, for example, to the inquiry report post Grenfell, the inquiry really commended the role of community groups and the VCS sector in supporting people at really, really difficult times in their lives. Now, this fast-changing landscape, risk landscape in London means that this work, the work of community resilience, isn't just valuable, it is urgent and it is essential. Community resilience is not just a nice to have, it's one of the most important investments we can make for London's future. And this is why, as London Resilient, we are really, really invested in this space. And we know that many of you are already at the heart of this. You're running cool spaces and community hubs, supporting refugee communities, organizing volunteers, leading community action groups, delivering food groups and food parcels to communities, supporting older Londoners. You're building connections that hold communities together. You opened your mosques and your churches to terrified Londoners through the summer of 2024 and 25. And before that, during the pandemic, you knocked on the door of vulnerable individuals isolating to deliver food parcels, to just check in on your neighbors. And I wanted to thank you for all that you do. Our work for this program is to amplify this work, the work that you're already doing in your communities, and make it grow. Would like to give you tools and resources like this webinar series. We really want you to understand the context. We want to offer structured support so that you can extend your impact and make the work more visible. You know your communities better than anyone. And we believe that when people know each other, when there's trust amongst people, those groups of people are more resilient. So through this program, we'll provide you with frameworks and training that turn your day-to-day activities and knowledge and those trusted relationships you have in your communities into strong, practical emergency plans. Now, these plans aren't just for major incidents. They will also support everyday emergencies, like the power cuts, like the local flooding, anything, you name it. These plans will help with that, will be a great starting point for those disruptions that affect people long before the blue lights and Category 1 responders arrive. So today is both a celebration for us, and a reminder that we are building for both today's and tomorrow's challenges. Thank you for everything that you do for London. Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Millie. Yeah, it's so lovely to hear that London is supporting itself and is getting the support of its London Resilience Forum as well. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. In terms of going forward, I'm going to skip this slide and talk a little bit about a response that I was involved in up in Manchester, and just to speak to how community organisations can get involved, even if they're not on the front line of response work. It looks very different in different for different organisations. So for the Heaton Park synagogue attack, which happened on the border between Bury, Salford, and Manchester, an organisation that I was involved in, Salford CVS, was part of the response work, alongside other local infrastructure organisations and other voluntary sector organisations, and obviously the formal responders as well. And here we did a lot of communication support, making sure that messaging around what had happened and correcting misinformation got out to the community. We opened a fundraising portal. We signposted to Jewish specific support on offer, and we were able to do a Jewish community survey to allocate funds from the government to make sure that the funds were going into the best place. So that's just a very quick go over of what in practice an organisation might do. But there's a clear message here that actually our communities and the people who work with them are often best placed to do that work because they have the cultural competency. They know about the cultural specific services. They're able to speak to communities in languages that they understand. And they can also provide a really good opportunity to help people who are seeing these things happen, get involved, feel a sense of purpose, and channel the anxieties that happen whenever incidents like this happen into socially useful work. So our sector, the community sector, is really important in this space. Some final thoughts: don't get overwhelmed by specific hazards. Prepare for impacts, but you don't have to know everything about climate change or solar weather to be able to work in this space and do useful things. Look at an asset-based approach. So that looks at community strengths. So instead of looking at the limitations, you're saying, what's strong about my community? What can I build upon? And that will be the feature of the next webinar. And really, to end, building community power is key to resilience work. And as voluntary sector organisations, that is your bread and butter. So you know what you're doing when it comes to building community power. It's just about making sure that you incorporate a little bit of risk assessment, a little bit of planning, a little bit of that kind of thing into the work that you're already doing. So we've got some important links and resources here that I'm not going to go through one by one, but it will be sent out to you. And then just going to questions and see if there's any questions that have emerged from the chat. For this section, should I close the PowerPoint and we can have a chat for the questions, Eli, do you reckon?
That sounds good. Yeah, thank you all for your conversation and questions in the chat. Please continue to do so because we do have 7 minutes. Just as a recap, we heard from Jesse about understanding resilience, what it is, the London Risk Register. We heard from Mark at the Met Office about the weather risks in the UK and the trends over time and what we need to be prepared for. We heard from Jesse again about the Civil Contingencies Act and explain what our responsibilities are in emergencies, and Millie to explain how the London Resilience Forum supports us and our communities. And then, of course, Jesse just ran through the Hebrew Heart Synagogue attacks. So if you have any questions related to those, please put them in the chat. A quick one first is for you, Mark, about the alerts. What can you tell people about the alerts that they will get? Is it spam? What can you tell them more about?
I did answer in the chat as well. So I think when you sign up through the Gov Delivery, you can suggest the areas that you're interested in. So you don't receive warnings for the whole country. I think you sign up for areas, so you'd receive warnings for London South East, but you'd only get those, so you won't be spammed too much. So you'll get warnings that may impact you, not warnings for the whole country. But I would recommend the app, because actually that's a good way of getting notifications for literally the locations that you are interested in. So if you are interested in South London, you can just put in a location in South London, and you'll get warning notifications for that area. So a couple of ways of doing it.
Thanks, Mark. There was also a bit of chat around around business resilience and what the business community can do, and how local authorities, borough resilience forums can get more involved with business. And the London Business Network for Resilience was started last year, thanks to the Resilience Unit, as a result of a survey about the lack of preparedness that businesses feel. So London Resilience gave some funding to Resilience First to start that last year, and it is their goal to work on building I shared the link in the chat if you have any other questions related to that. We also had a question about how the London Resilience Unit and Resilience Forum can further support all of us. Millie, I'll hand over to you. The more specific question was about, sorry, I've lost it here, but it is about about further support that London Resilience Unit can provide.
Sorry, I'm experiencing some tech challenges. I missed the first part of the question, Eli. Are you able to repeat it, please?
Yes, it's about how the London Resilience Units can further support communities in London.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's worth having an exploratory conversation to see what the specific context is. I mean, without that kind of context, I'm not able to comment on an individual situation, but we do have relationships and organizations we work with all across London, and yourselves, LSEP. You're a great link to connect to community groups and see what support is available for groups. So perhaps a conversation with yourselves or directly with me might be a good place to start and just see what's out there. I'm going to pop my email address in the chat, and we can take that conversation offline.
Thank you, Millie. You answered the more specific question about how to stay connected with London Resilience. So yes, do contact me, or you can join the London Communities Emergencies Partnership. We are partially funded by London Resilience. We work a lot with them on connecting across the London resilience sector, liaising with charities, community groups, and other voluntary community sector groups across London. Thanks, Millie. And I see that there's a question about if any of the team is available to speak to your local community group. Are you referring to to which group? Would you say Communities Prepared or London Resilience? I don't know if the person who asked that is able to clarify, but in general, the answer is yes. All of us across these networks are available for speaking to different groups. So whether it's Communities Prepared, contact Jessie or VLN, Millie, London Resilience, or me at London Communities Emergencies Partnership, Laura at London Business Network for Resilience. That is what we do. We want to spread awareness and knowledge and insights and connect people as much as possible. So do let us know if we can support. And I'm aware we only have a minute, so I think that's most of the questions. If you have more questions, please contact Communities Prepared. We'll put the email in the chat. And there's a final poll so that we have 7 more of these webinars. And we do want your feedback so that we can keep making them better. So I'll throw this very, very quick poll into your screen. Please take a moment to answer it. I'll leave it up there for a bit longer. I do apologize for the sound today. I saw the comment that my audio is clipping. We will share a recording of this, and hopefully the sound comes through clearly there. We'll have key points from the webinar and the presentation. Those, I believe, VLN and Jessie will put on the Resilient Communities page, and we will also share the next invitation to the February webinar. You can go on the project site to see the topics for all of the remaining webinar episodes as well, if you're interested. And as each month begins, we will have a new link for you to register. Thank you very much, especially to our speakers, Mark at the Met Office, Millie at London Resilience, and Jessie and VLN for leading and producing a lot of today's webinar. Thank you. And we will see you at the next webinar, end of February. Have a good afternoon, everyone.